Morning, everybody. We've gotten a lot of new followers on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram lately. And first of all, I want to thank everybody for following and all the support you've shown. I've been talking about recently a lot of the aquaponics, and I think that's where a lot of the new followers have come from. So I want to go ahead and give you that little tour that I was talking about and show you what our early system looks like. So we started this system about 3 years ago at this point, and yeah, things have been going pretty good with it. We've had our ups and downs. We'll talk about some of those, in other videos. But right now, I just want to give everybody a quick walkthrough. So here we go. So if you're not familiar already, this is our tiny greenhouse. It's 6 feet by 14 feet. And this is where we have our aquaponics system. In this system, we raise blue tilapia and a variety of houseplants, vegetables, and herbs. Right now it's herbs and houseplants, but we've got more stuff on the way. The system itself is what's called a split flow system, which is based around a main bilge tank. All the water in the system is pumped out of the bilge tank through the grow beds and also over to the fish tank, and then everything through gravity drains back to the bilge tank. It's driven off of one main pump in there, which feeds an intake to the fish tank. In there we started out with 22 little tilapia fry, and we've got, not exactly sure our count now, but we're getting up there. We've lost a couple through the years, I think mainly from predation of the bigger males. I got to get another tank set up so that we can start separating males and females and get an actual breeding colony going, but that's another story. So from there, the water, it fills the tank. The fish waste gets drawn up through the solids lifting pipe, comes down here, natural gravity feed into the primary solid waste filter. This is just a small swirl filter, nothing special about it. The waste comes out of that bottom pipe, swirls around, and settles at the bottom. It's not the most efficient. Sometimes waste does get through, and we're working on dealing with that downstream, and also going to modify this to do a better job of stopping that waste. From there, it drains out into our biomedia reactor. In here, we have these little wagon wheels. This is the main home of our nitrifying bacteria. The nitrifying bacteria will take the fish waste. They'll first turn it into nitrites, and then later turn it into nitrates, which is going to be good, healthy food for our plants. You can see all the churning going on in here. We have an air stone at the bottom that is fed off of an air pump up here, which feeds multiple air stones in the system, but this one is set up so that you get a nice oxygen flow in there to keep them nitrifying bacteria healthy and alive, so they can keep on converting the nitrogen for us. From there, you can see we dump out again through gravity into a secondary solid waste catch. I'll go into more detail on that in another video. But again, we make our way back to the bilge tank, which you can see some fishies in there. We've taken, since we don't have a separate tank for raising babies up, we've taken some of the babies that we find in the main tank, or the make their way all the way through to the filter, put them in the bilge tank so that they have time to get raised up and don't get eaten by their parents. So from there, again, that main pump goes up and the other split on it comes in to feed these grow beds. We have a steady flow bed here. This is constantly flowing in and has a constant water level in it. That you can see there. We dig down into the media bed. So that'll get up to this pipe here and then drain back down into the bilge tank. There's an air stone buried in the bottom here to keep oxygen getting in. There's going to be more bacteria in this media that are going to continue to process that fish waste and also feed the plants directly in the media. This media that we have here, the stuff on the top is hydrogen. It's a expanded clay media, they call it. It's not very, what's it called? It's not exactly all uniform. This is a very rough one. Sometimes you get a bag of this and it's these perfect little clay balls. And then other times it's these rock-like pieces. Hydrogen is pretty pricey, so what we've done is gone ahead and taken a lot of these river rocks that we have at, we have tons of them, literally tons of them all over our property because of the previous owner. So we did a base layer, maybe like 3-4 inches of that in the bottom, and then on top of that we put the hydrogen down to allow for the plants to take hold and root, and they've got something to support them, but it's not terribly heavy. They can easily move it out of their way. You can see here, this is a ginger root that we have growing. You can check out some different videos that we have on Facebook and YouTube, really, that show this entire bed just filled with ginger. I think if you look back in the earlier videos, I've got some stuff of me harvesting it, and this giant rhizome that was coming out. The next bed is another continuous flow bed. This one is all water inside with an air stone at the bottom. You can see in there. It's kind of tough to see because it's so overgrown. But the water flows in the backside and then eventually out this pipe here. Same thing. We've got an air stone in the bottom to keep the oxygen going up, keep these roots nice and healthy. You can see how awesome these plants are doing. We have Tradescantia zerbina here and purple waffle. Yeah, they love it. It's about time to thin those out. So I got a lot of work to do. The next bed, this is a flood and drain system. It's going to be kind of tough to see in here right now because, again, it's so overgrown. This system relies off of what's called a bell siphon. The bell siphon, you can see here, is in a tube that is protected from the media around it. As the water level rises up, the bell siphon will become activated. You see that pipe down there is called a standpipe. That standpipe is going to be the main drain out of this system. And as the bell siphon fills up and initiates a siphon effect, that water will go from a little trickle down there to a full-on, like, gushing blast out of it to lower the level of the water. Now, the reason behind this is, see, there you go now. So it comes out of there pretty forcefully. When it does, it also helps to aerate the water in the bilge tank. Get some more oxygen in there. The reason that we do that is similar to the reason that we have air stones over in these. Not that I actually mentioned it, but the reason being is that you don't want your roots to be completely devoid of oxygen. It's not just the bacteria that you want to have the oxygen, you want the roots to have oxygen too. Just like overwatering a plant, if it sits there in stagnant water, the roots are gonna rot out and the plant's gonna die. So what you want to do is, in one way or another, through an air stone or through a bell siphon, you want to keep good, healthy oxygen getting to the roots of the plant. So with the bell siphon, the water level rises up and it drains down. And every time it does that, you're obviously watering the roots, giving them that the fish waste and all that's been converted by the bacteria, and then you're draining it down and allowing for natural air to just rush into the stones here, and they'll fill the void of where the water was previously, and that will then allow the plants to get the required oxygen. So it probably takes about, I don't know, 2 minutes, maybe 3, to fill up the base of this with water, and then again initiate the siphon, and it just keeps on repeating. And it's an automatic thing. You don't have to, I say you don't have to mess with it too much, but I had a hell of a time getting this thing working properly. You can see the bell itself is suspended by a little dowel and some electrical ties. It was a trial and error thing for sure for me, and I know other people have better ways of doing it. Again, the way that I like to learn is through trial and error. So that's what you're going to get if you're following along with us. Again, in here we have mint. This is apple mint. This is great for tea or any other mint flavorings you want to do. You can make mojitos with it. And over here we have Tradescantia pallida. If you look back, we had done a giveaway earlier in the year where this entire grow bed was just teeming with this stuff. Recently I wanted to clear this out, make some room, and clean the bed out. Get any settled fish poop out of there. And once I did it, it took a couple weeks and everything grew back really fast. So what I wanted to do after that, you see the little camera here, I've got a time lapse going. Knocked it over, I gotta fix it, but I've got a time lapse going showing the regrowth of that. I'll be putting that up soon. I'll probably put a clip of it on here, but it'll also be available on our YouTube channel. Check that out. And yeah, so that's the main thing here. I had other plans to put more grow beds up at the top here, and it didn't really work out the way I had things set up with the filters, because I would still need to access them for maintenance. And like I said, this is a pretty tiny greenhouse. I had originally also planned to put some vertical grow towers in the front. That just never came around. And we've got other plans that probably won't involve that necessarily. As far as the other system, so if you're just getting into aquaponics, or you're researching it and you might be interested, I want to say the reason that we went with, you're going to find different types of systems. The reason that we went with a split flow system was because I've heard horror stories about having a setup where you have your main pump in your fish tank, and then you spring a leak somewhere else in the system. And if that happens and you're not right there watching it and able to cut the pump off, or if you haven't had the foresight to go ahead and put a float switch on it that's going to kill it when the water level drops to a certain amount, you're going to drain it out and you're going to kill all your fish. Luckily, we haven't had that happen. Again, I chose this setup because I did not want to get a year into it and kill all my fish. because we sprung a leak. And in the very beginning, we sprung plenty of leaks. We sprung leaks. We've had dry pumps where you come out to visit the fish and you just hear this nasty whining sound. And it ends up being the bilge tank is pretty much dead empty. And luckily, when that has happened, we haven't had many fish, or they're very small and it's still enough water for them. But you will find that there's going to be things that go wrong with your system, and there's going to be headaches and learning experiences. So stuff like that, you try to hedge your bets against it and use a system that will try to eliminate some of that stuff. That's why we went with this system. I do have a minor flaw in the system right now, that we've added another pump here to supply our secondary solid waste filter. It's up here. And then also you can see it's got a tap off of it that now feeds a couple grow beds that I set up out here. We'll take a look at that now. I do need to take my own advice and go ahead and set up a float switch just in case this water level gets too low. I don't end up killing all my fish. Before we go out there, speaking of low water level, you'll notice that in the bilge tank, the water level is kind of low. Normally, we have that little float over there is a float valve that will stop water from entering the tank from an external source, or allow it to fill if we're running low. I currently don't have that hooked up because I had to paint the tank because it was getting algae on it. We'll show you that later. That would normally go over here. It's a 275 gallon tank that I have rigged up that will supply water that's already been treated, tap water that is already conditioned so that it, the chlorine is all taken out of it and everything, so that it's safe for the fish, and it'll just trickle in there as needed, because you are going to lose some through evaporation for sure. I think that's been the major thing with us. Not having that top-off tank in there was something that caused me to have to constantly, at least daily, fill the thing up with, maybe 2, 3, 5 gallon buckets. So I was adding probably about 15 gallons a day during the summer. So anyway, back to what we were talking about before. That other tap off feed comes into here. These 3 new beds are these are 27 gallon totes. So I've got roughly 75 gallons of extra grow space now. These are continuous flow, and they have a air stone in the bottom to bubble and keep those roots nice and healthy. You see up here what I'm trying to do with, if you've seen the other video, the brainwave interrupter, is I want to allow these indeterminate tomatoes to grow up, and as they do, I'm going to train them along the trellis, and we should have a nice little canopy of tomatoes. So I'm excited for that. Seems to be slow going with them. A lot of these, I think, these couple that I have in here were in shock because we grew them in cups for the longest time, little 4-inch cups, and they were root bound, and they obviously, when you go to take the dirt out and everything, they're gonna go into shock. But they seem to be coming around now. We've had a couple that actually got knocked out in the most recent storm. The wind picked them up, pulled the roots out, and I didn't notice for a day, and then I came out and the roots were all dried out. So yeah. So I just want to say thanks again for all the support, whether you're new follower or old follower. It really means a lot to us, and we hope you stick around. We've got a lot going on, and we've got a lot of good things coming. So take care. We'll see you later.